Welcome to Coffee and Pizza. I hope you can enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Pizza. And today we have an incredible guest. Incredible because he was working in the same company for the last 10 years. And this is something very, 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 very strange in cybersecurity. We have the pleasure to have here James Kettle. Maybe someone doesn't know about you, but I know behind of you, we have a very interesting product. Can you give me from your side three, at least one of highlights of your life?
Sure, absolutely. So I think probably the single biggest highlight of my life would be like I've spent maybe 15 years now doing security research, and in 2019 I stumbled on a white paper written in 2004 that everyone had forgotten existed, and I tried the technique out in the white paper. I basically just copy pasted the HTTP request and tried it out, and it gave me full control over every single website using Akamai, which includes a large number of banks and also PayPal. That was the start of a very fun piece of research that's had significant ramifications ever since.
That's really, really, really rare. And something I didn't mention, maybe I try to do with all my guests. First of all, I'm sorry for the didn't mention. Thank you very much for coming, and it's my pleasure to spend that time with you, and you can share your experience and your background with the community. And thank you very much for coming. And that's the first thing. And so sorry because we was talking about. And okay, you explain to the people that's my highlights of the life. But if someone doesn't know you and want to know about you, okay, the first question I do for most of my guests is, from where are you coming from?
I grew up in the south of England in Cambridge.
Really?
Yeah.
We can say you are a smart person then.
Well, I did not go to Cambridge University, but I didn't. It was too close to my parents. So.
That's we can say like that you have a background like a scholar background something that you can put this is on your resume like I was in Cambridge, right?
Yeah, no. I originally wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't get into medical school, and I was like, I will just go into software instead, and ended up here.
That's really cool. But how is when you was younger there in Cambridge? Because I understand like this is a country of city of, or we can see it's small village of students. We can say like have a lot of there. And how was there for make friends? Because it was easy, difficult, or because one of the things like, okay, when I was younger, like the community where I grow, like can change a little bit your life, right? Or can decide the future of your life. Then how was there?
Yeah, it was okay. I think the quality of the education there is really good, which is certainly nice. But personally, I always thought, oh, like hacking, that sounds super cool, but that's for the bad guys. So I didn't really get into it until I went to university at all. So yeah, I think it's quite hard to say how that background kind of influenced things, but I always like to bypass rules even before I go into hacking. Yeah.
But we okay, doing a little bit of that, like how do you arrive to hacking? Like what brings you to the light to start with thinking like, okay, I want to do something of cybersecurity related or something like that?
So I got into programming computer games when I was maybe 14. I made a game called Bar Brawler in QBasic, and it was over 10,000 lines, and I didn't know about functions, or I didn't know about functions, so it's just like one 10,000 line function basically. And then I started a degree in computer science, and during that degree, the first year was too easy and was basically assumed you couldn't code. So I had a lot of spare time, and I spent a lot of my spare time playing a Polish computer game called Soldat. And this was an online competitive-ish game, and a lot of people cheated in this game. And personally, I'm quite competitive, and when someone else cheats, I get a little bit angry. And they all use the same cheat made by this one guy, and he sold this cheat on a website. Now, maybe you can see where this is going. I started thinking, if only I knew how to hack websites, I could hack his website and I could replace the cheat with something that just like nukes the computer.
Smart movement.
So,
James.
so as you can probably guess from the fact that I'm sharing the story publicly, after learning how to hack the website, I decided maybe this would have some unintended side effects and I shouldn't do it. But that's how I first got started. And just after I'd learnt those skills, Google started paying people bug bounties for finding vulnerabilities in their software. So I found an exercise in YouTube and then started spending all my spare time at university doing bug bounty hunting.
That's so cool. At that time, you was making money with Babanti, or it just was a hobby for you?
Yeah, no, that was paid. Yeah, it was really nice because it was like I was a student and I had no money, and then Google would give me $3,000, which blew my mind. Yeah,
That's cool because one of the things we have in the last conversations with Jason and also with Casey, is the problem we have today, or we can say have today on the community about bounty, and some people saying, okay, most of the companies about bounty is scamming researchers and that kind of things. And one of the things I was talking with Casey is like, I understand totally your point, man, because you are in the middle, and sometimes it need to be hard to be between the bug hunter and also the company, because for companies like Background or HackerOne or Integrity or whatever of those, the important here most of the times is like, okay, if you don't have bug hunters, you don't have a company. But also, if you don't have companies, you don't have bug hunters. Then it's a very difficult line to discover or to move, right? Because that's one of the things. And another thing, like one of the things was talking with Jason is like, okay, that's a point, but sometimes it's different, or it's difficult to arrive to the way. Okay, how much I need to pay for the researcher, right?
yeah.
And what is your opinion a little bit about that?
I think so. When I got into it, basically, Mozilla and Google were the only companies doing this. So they were super forward thinking. They were really, really good. You report an issue to Google and they realize it's twice as serious as you thought, they'll pay twice as much. And they won't even necessarily tell you why. They won't give you the details. They'll just be like, yeah, you thought this was medium, but this was actually high, and pay you more. Like, the experience of dealing with them back then was really good. And I think in general, people are too quick to accuse companies of scamming them. I think these days there's a lot more. Yeah, there's this risk of it's entitlement, and you kind of engage with the company in this adversarial way. And it's like, if they don't pay me what I thought they should have paid me, the only reason must be because it's a scam. And obviously these days, there's a lot more. There's a lot more companies doing it. I have had bad experiences in bug bounty. There's some companies I would never send a report to again. Absolutely. So there are bad things out there, but I think someone has one bad experience, they make a lot of noise, gets amplified on social media, and people think like, oh, bug bounty company, all companies are trying to scam them, and that doesn't ring true with my personal experience. And I have done a lot of bug bounty hunting over the years, and I've also run the PortSwigger bug bounty program. So, like I paid a $2,000 bounty earlier this week for something. So I do see it from both sides there.
Mhm. And also, we need to think the number of researchers we have today, right? That's important because how do you when you have the position of triager, or you need to do the managing the bug, can be difficult also because the number of the people today on bug bounty is like crazy, right? If you compare with 10 years ago, we can say, or 7 years ago or 6 years ago, because you have a lot of content, a lot of schools, a lot of YouTubers talking about bug bounty. And sometimes from my perspective is the expectation many people have, right? Because some people do the typical course about bug hunting, bug hunter or something like that. He do the course, and after that, maybe he believe like this is gonna be easy, right, or something like that. But it can be complicated, right? I don't know from your
Yeah,
perspective.
I think the scene is it's suffering a bit from its success. Whenever anything gets this scale of adoption, uh, there's always going to be a lot of drama as well. I think, but I think like it's a mistake. It's a mistake to fixate on the drama. I basically mostly just ignore it and deal with, I take one thing at a time based on my experience and what I know. If a program, when, you know, like people come up with programs and they'll find a critical bug in the program and then they'll get paid $500 and they'll get really upset. And it's like, look at the program brief. It says if you find a critical, you'll get paid $500. So if you don't accept that, don't interact with that program. Leave it alone. If I have a bad experience with the program, I'm not going to go near that program again. If a program says they don't pay bounties, I'm not going to spend 2 hours writing a high quality report for that program. I'm going to write the report in 5 minutes if it's even worth it. Yeah, I think if you get too emotional, too involved in it, that can be really harmful for like long-term mental health and that kind of stuff. The way to stay sane is just to keep it professional. If you've got some, I understand why it doesn't happen like that. Like when you've got someone living in a low cost of living country, these bounties are like life-changing amounts of money. So it's easy for me to be like, yeah, just accept that they shortchanged you by $2,000, because it's sad, but it's not the end of the world for me. I do appreciate it's not the same for everyone else, but that professional mindset is basically how you survive.
James, thank you very much for this opinion. And also now we know if we need to borrow some money, we can ask to you. Just joking, man. No, but also, the perspective I have, like same you mentioned, like one of the things is, okay, you can get it, but also depending on where you living can be a nice hobby, we can say, or because not only the top tires is getting money. We are happy, or at least here in my country in Spain, we have very, very good bug hunters, and maybe the tops and Spain is different. But one of the things is like, okay, if you have a job, maybe better take your time in your job, improve your skills in your job, improve your career or something like that. And also you take the bug bounty as a possibility to put your knowledge in the real platforms, in the real world, right? Because also for people as a junior, like, hey, I don't have experience, how I can get a job? Like, BDP programs is a huge door for starting point when you have a letter from NSA, or do you have a letter from government, or you hack it, and that can be a game changer, a big a big letter when you are finding or try to find a job. But
Absolutely, like I think building your bug bounty forces you to become a good hacker, because if you're not a good hacker, you don't get paid. I think that probably set the trajectory for the rest of my career. The fact that I started with a bug bounty, where I had to do something innovative, basically, to successfully find a vulnerability in Google. That meant when I went into pen testing and it suddenly became really easy and people weren't that motivated about finding cool bugs, I was just like, this isn't satisfying. Don't you like it? It just got boring, and that was what made me go, into research after that, because it's finding things that other people aren't finding is much more fun.
But in my perspective, you say something very hard. Like, if you are not a good hunter, you are not a good hacker. I understand your your point.
No,
Yeah, I got it, man. But I don't
I'm
say
not saying
word by word
everyone
more.
has to do it. If
Yeah.
someone's a full-time pen tester, they might be a great hacker, or they might not. Like, if you are a bug bounty hunter and you're having success, you've got to be good to achieve that, right?
But also, for example, always I like to explain to the people, have more hacking than that's it. You can have I don't know, SCADA hacking, or maybe you do like hardware hacking, like this is hacking on, or you can do like more like pen testing, like inside of you can be a professional hacking another kind of things inside of Windows, or maybe Linux, or reverse engineering, all that kind of thing. This is not like bug bounties. But one of the things I try to explain also is like maybe move your knowledge or your skills to API hacking, or API here in Spain we say. It can be interesting because everything have an API, right? And that's help you for the future. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, kind of. I think API hacking, like, just the term always kind of puzzled me, because it's like, well, websites are made of APIs. HTTP is an API, and if you're testing mobile apps, well, everything server side is an API as well. So for me, it's like API hacking is kind of just it's just a subset of web hacking and mobile hacking. And if you're not doing that subset yet, you're definitely missing things. Yeah, but for sure you can specialize in it. Like, you can specialize in one bug class if you want to. Some people have a lot of success doing that. Yeah.
That's right. And okay, moving a little bit about your life and that kind of things. Okay, you end you end to study and you go to the real jobs. And how do you find your first job? Because okay, we know the last 10 years you was working there at PortSwigger, but what do you did for the beginning?
Sure. So after doing bug bounty hunting during my degree, after I graduated, I got a job at Netcraft, which is an old company. Old people will have heard of it. And they do some cybersecurity stuff. And the only reason I was able to get that job was because of my bug bounty experience. So I worked there for a year. I worked on a vulnerability scanner that they had written in Perl. And then I worked at Context Information Security, which is just a security consultancy, for a year. And that was around the time like then I basically spent a year doing back-to-back pen tests, about a week long on every single one. And after a year of that, I was just like, it's getting repetitive. I'm not learning very much on every new site, because it has all the same issues as the last 20 sites that I looked at. Or when it does have more complex issues, I don't have enough time to investigate these issues, because I need 1 month to understand that one issue, and I've only got 1 week to do a pen test on the whole site. So then when I saw that the makers of Burp Suite, which I was already using heavily, were advertising for a researcher role, I thought, that sounds perfect. I joined PortSwigger.
That's one of the things not many people know. When you work as a pen tester, the people believe you're gonna be hacker like the movie, like Mr. Robot. But the things you need to do, some bad or boring stuff there, and sometimes can be very repetitive because you are doing the same. And that's something that many people know at the beginning, And okay, from there you arrive to PortSwigger. And how do you arrive to PortSwigger? Like you send your resume, or someone called you?
I gave us so I was developing I developed an extension for Burp Suite called ActiveScan Plus Plus, which was basically because we ended up on this consultancy engagement where they had two different companies of consultants in the same room, and on the whiteboard they had a tally of which company had the most shells. So basically, all they cared about was how many unique remote code execution vulnerabilities you could find, and I wrote ActiveScan++ before going there to help me find as many as possible, as easily as possible, and found at least 2 thanks to it. So I was presenting that tool at a conference, and that's where I ran into David, who's the author of Burp Suite. I got hired for PortSwigger.
And then you arrive there and you start just as a researcher working for the company. And that's your, because from before to start PortSwigger, now we can say like, okay, we have Burp Suite, but PortSwigger 10 years ago is not the same company we have today, right? And at the beginning, I believe, I remember, was a very, we can say, regular tool, not many things. Now, after 10 years, you have a lot of extensions, have a lot of stuff. And what your first mission when you arrived to the company? Like, if we can talk about that.
Yeah, totally. So I had a few key goals. One of them was to do research and to publish it at Black Hat USA, and to make sure that the results of the research were implemented into Burp Suite. And I remember that vividly because getting into Black Hat USA is quite difficult. And I was basically told, here's your desk, now do some research. And that was it. That was like all the support that I had for it, which was quite scary at first, but having that level of autonomy to choose how I approach research and what I research actually worked out really well that first year. I discovered server-side template injection, and we put detection for it in Burp Suite. I got remote code execution on a bunch of systems and gave a presentation at Black Hat, so that went really well. The other kind of aspect of what I do at PortSwigger, and have done the whole time, is basically look for ways to make people's life better using Burp Suite. I'm a big fan of automation, in automating everything possible, and the whole time I've just been looking for what are the most valuable things that we could do with the least amount of effort to make life better for Burp Suite users.
I'm a big fan of automation too, but not many people really like it. When you go to the bug bounty war and you explain to the people, no, I really prefer to work in at least from my side, I prefer to work in application. This application can do the job for you. Can you do the job for you automatic? And the people say, no, you need to find the bugs like manually because it's better. And what do you think from your perspective?
Yeah, I love both. I think the thing that's the most kind of underrated is that there's the most missed, and this was true when I made ActiveScan++ like 12 years ago, and it's still true, is people think basically either you find bugs manually or you run a scanner and it does the whole thing for you automatically, and then you just have to like triage false positives at the end. And what people miss is that you can write something that scans for interesting behavior. It scans for suspicious things. It's not looking for specific vulnerabilities. It's looking for like weak points. And then it can then show those weak points to the human who can then manually investigate them. And that's the philosophy behind a lot of the scan checks that I've helped put into Burp Suite, such as suspicious input transformation, and also to extensions that I've made like /powered scanner. So, for example, /powered scanner found a SQL it found a PHP code injection where a lot of characters were being filtered. And what that meant is that a normal scanner that tries to inject like a PHP payload never finds it. And a human never finds it because the injection point is literally in the path of a particular request. And it's like, who decides to put PHP code in a specific folder name, right? But the tool said there's something suspicious happening with this path name, and then I investigated it manually and found it and built a full exploit for it. So there's this kind of space where the scanner is just trying to give the pen tester hints or the bug bounty hunter hints. And I think that's one of the most valuable things that you can do with automation.
And also, James, something I really like to explain to the people. I know some bug hunters, most of them is like specialists in some kind of vulnerability. Some is specialists in XSS, specialists in CCFRF, specialists in different kind of things. But sometimes you are looking like very, very sharp for where you want to go, and you are missing some things like maybe you can do like automatically, right? And go into the easy way, And one of the things like this, because also you was mentioned like in PHP, but most of the people when I go into when it's going to Pac-Man, it's going to JavaScript. Then PHP, most of the websites today is in PHP, and PHP, I am sure you have there a lot of vulnerabilities easy to find. Many people is missing because most of the people is going on trying to finding these vulnerabilities inside of JavaScript, right? Because one of the things I like to explain, like cybersecurity is a very huge wide of things, and specialists, and it's very hard to be specialized in anything. And also when you are doing a pen testing and you have some tools can help you during this process, as you mentioned, like giving you some hints about where you want to go, and can be awesome, at least from my perspective, right?
Exactly. When it works right, it can the tools can give you hints to kind of pull you out of your mindset and kind of take you in a different direction from where you would have originally looked, which is really valuable. I mean, as a bug bounty hunter, if you want to only find client-side bugs, you can. That's great, but it's a different kind of point of view for a pen tester where if you do a pen test and you only find client-side bugs and you miss some easy server-side bugs, then that's not going to end very well.
And one of the things here is like, okay, when do you find the vulnerability? You need to do the report, and then many people fail during the report. But one of the things I really like from PortSwigger, and I try to explain to another people and use your platform as a standard, we can say, is because the documentation is incredibly good, straightforward, and there do you have also the labs to do it like with your hands. That's incredible, right? And from who is coming this idea to create that and waste this time and money to create that?
So David, the author of Burp Suite, he wrote the web application Hacker's Handbook. So that was the original book that taught people how to hack websites. And then he made a second edition of that. And then like 5 years later, people were basically saying, we want a third edition of this book. And he was like, well, what would be better is if we had something online, because then we could have interactive labs where people could really learn this stuff by actually hacking stuff. And I personally had experience making intentionally vulnerable games like CTF kind of stuff in the past. So we worked together and worked with Java devs and built the academy, which has gone really well. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you know how many students do you have at the moment? You don't know, really?
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. A lot. It's crazy. The amount of traffic it gets is insane. I think it's probably, other than making Burp Suite, it's probably the most kind of impactful thing that we've done, and I'm quite proud of it because obviously it's completely free, and you can learn some seriously advanced stuff from those labs. So I think it's really made it easier to get into web application security as a whole field, which is really cool.
Inside of my world, many people want to start to hacking, and some people come to me and say, "Hey, where I can start?" I was was watching some videos about Hack the Box and some videos about Try Hack Me and Pentest Labs and these kind of platforms. Like these platforms, I say it's incredible. And for example, Pentest Lab is very good, Try Hack Me and everything. But the good thing in my perspective is like you have a small challenge. And if someone doesn't have time to expend to hacking a full full company or something like inside you can do in Try Hack Me, because maybe sometimes in Hack the Box you can spend in one machine 2 hours or 3 hours. I believe that is incredible because you can go in like path by path, like, okay, I want to learn SQL, I want to learn Access, and you get the levels, and that's very smart movement from my perspective. It's very, very cool and easy to learn, and something you say like is free, and that's incredible. Also, I believe it's a very good approach, and I believe that's the key also about why PortSwigger or Burp Suite is today one of the standards of pen testing, web pen testing. And then I move to the next question. This question is a little bit painful because I believe like you don't gonna like it so much because it's like what is happening with Burp Suite, because every day it's like weighter than weighter. Like before was very light and too easy to use, and today you need a lot of power for using in your computer, and is using a lot of resources. Like why this is happening? Like this is something we can see in the community. Like many people, like when do you have the meme? Like when you open Burp Suite, like your memory dies or something like that.
I think if you monitor, we monitor community sentiment on this topic, and it's improved a lot since about last September, when we shipped the end result of doing a lot of work on performance. So I think a lot of the current attitude towards it's slow or laggy or it's all in memory or whatever is kind of it's lingering because we built this reputation by not fixing these performance problems fast enough when they happened. But we did a bunch of work on that last year. We made massive improvements, and we've also put in lots of internal performance tests, which means if a developer makes a change that makes something slower, a whole build fails and it doesn't get released to any customers whatsoever, and then we fix it. So over time, I think this reputation should be diminishing. In fact, if you look at some of the stuff we've done and compare it with some competitors that, for example, don't even support HTTP2, I think you'll find Burp Suite goes significantly faster in some contexts, at least. Other than that, the other thing to bear in mind is people say exactly the same thing about web browsers, right? People are always complaining web browsers are so slow. Web browsers are eating all their memory. And it's like, what's the root cause of that? Well, the root cause of that is the website. The website is getting more and more bloated. It's executing more and more JavaScript. It's using more and more bandwidth. And that's just like a continuous trend with websites. So that's how it creates the situation where basically, because of websites, the performance of everything that interacts with websites, including proxies and browsers, like your experience of that performance gets worse over time as the websites get more bloated. So it's like the performance of our tool is the same, but it's being asked to do more and more by the website. So the result is it's getting worse. So as a result of that, basically we're continuously working on it to get performance optimizations in and so on. But I would say also, if you see something now with a modern, fully patched version and the performance is bad, please let us know. We would love to hear about it, and we will fix it.
But one of the things I can say, this is okay. I can understand. I never realized that's true. Like sometimes it can be the website, but don't change the proxy GUI, because I don't find nothing now after the last changes you did. It was so hard to find it, but I understand like different points of.
Yeah, that's another issue that we've got is as a mature product, we'll have a design and it's like our design might have some flaws, right? But people get upset when we change it to fix those flaws, because it's just like what they're used to, and it creates this tricky scenario where we want to fix the design, we want to make the design better, but we know changing the design will cause pain. So what it means is that we have to kind of hit this balance of like, okay, is this going to cause like a tiny bit of short-term pain but make things better in the long run, or is it just like going to cause too much pain? Let's just not do it.
But one of the things I really like from other companies, like, hey, we have a new interface. Do you want to move to the new interface, or do you want to stay in the old version? Right. That's in my opinion, this is good because when you come from legacy environment, do you prefer to stay working in the place you
Yeah,
were
true.
working before?
But they all delete the old version after a while, don't they?
Yeah.
Like,
But
they
anyway,
always do, because maintaining 2 versions is twice as much work, and then they're shipping less other valuable features. So
that's very smart. But
yeah,
also, I want to say another thing. Like sometimes that people complain about, Burp Suite is very slow. But I can say, first of things, like it's very slow if you're using your virtual machine. And depends on resources do you have in your virtual machines. That's the first thing. When I use virtualize it in Kali Linux, it's very slow. But when I use the same version on Windows, it's really smoothly. When I use the same version native in my Apple, works smooth. The main issue can be there. And also, in another point of view, we can say, do you have something in your company, or we can say not your company, but we can say a little bit of your product because you are working there. It's like one of the cool features is like you can create your own extensions, but sometimes these extensions is not the best because you can see when you activate these extensions, how do you start to using memory. And some people believe like this is a problem of bullshit. That's not true. The problem is maybe the extension or the coding of the extension, right? That's something we need to think about to do this complaining in social media about.
and this is the issue with extensions is it's tricky because if you look at what people love about Burp Suite, it's the extensions. They're absolutely mad about extensions, and we're incredibly lucky to have this community that makes all these super valuable things. And yet, extensions are also a kind of they're a threat to performance. Like they're a threat to the a bad extension is a threat to the reputation of the product. You see this with you saw this with Firefox. Actually, Firefox got a reputation for being really, really slow because they gave extensions powerful APIs that resulted in the extensions kind of slowing everything down, and then they basically had to be really aggressive and just start disabling extensions violently to make it fast again. And we're not at that point, thankfully. But yeah, it's definitely, if it is slow, try disabling extensions. If that fixes us, if you know which extension is slowing it down, let us know and we will fix that extension because we do not want you to have a bad experience.
But also, same you mentioned, right? It's very difficult to stay with all the community and give everything. I believe like same I mentioned you before, Burp Suite have, in my opinion, the best academy where you can learn about pen testing and weapon testing. And of course, we can say Burp Suite is a great product because it's a standard today in the community. Then if it's a standard, it's for something. The people doesn't use SAP, we can say, and it's because bullshit sometimes is better. And that's one of the things. And I know you are not the owner of the product, but it's something the community talk about. And I want to bring you the question because I believe if someone have the ability to answer, maybe it can be you.
I'm very happy to chat about it. I am involved in decisions like, should we add this feature or should we make this other feature that already exists faster? And decisions like, can we move this button or will it make people too angry? Yeah. In
That's
general,
something
the
always
answer
happens.
is don't move the button. So I've got you back.
Yeah, but this is something always happens, and something you mentioned that not many people realize. Okay, I can have two different GUIs, but the maintenance of that is the double, double cost, double price, and still the same price in the last. I remember 5 years, maybe a little bit, but still having the same price. Some people it's a little bit mad because say it's expensive, and you don't have a monthly subscription version, but we need to understand that the thing you get for free, it's incredible, right? And
Yeah, for manual testing, it's basically all you need.
exactly. Then the people always talk, and this if the people is talking, that's good, because that means you are doing something good. Then talking about extensions, and I'm talking about a little bit about the future. And one of the things I know, or maybe is creating now, or maybe like over the table, the AI. Many people like using AI, and something we was talking before about bug bounty, and we have the explosion today of bug bounty with Expo. This crazy AI can do like everything, and is the best AI in the world. It can hack your phone and your girlfriend in 5 minutes. But
Maybe.
then, what is your opinion about AI in the future, about bug bounty and hacking?
I think it's clear that it's making a big difference to things. We last month we released Burp AI, which is our first kind of stab into this area, and like some of the things that we've done there, like the explain this, they're kind of super simple and obvious, but they're just quality of life features. Like explain this, it saves you from having to open a web browser and Google something, right? So it maybe saves you like 20 seconds, which is nice. And then you've got the things more powerful, like the explore issue feature, which is basically like a micro version of Expo that will go off and try and exploit a vulnerability for you. With in some cases some results that are shockingly good. And yeah, it's making a big difference in a lot of places. It's redefining what's possible. There's a whole load of things that basically you previously could only do them with manual testing, and now that's no longer true, which is insane. And on the research team, we've had a lot of fun developing extensions that use AI to do really cool stuff. Like Gareth recently released Shadow Repeater, which it monitors your manual testing in Repeater, and it tries variations of your payloads, so that maybe you almost find a bug but don't quite send the right payload. The AI will find it for you. And it's in terms of tokens, it's super cheap and so on too. So yeah, it's making a massive difference to things, and I think it will continue to do so. It's an interesting topic because it creates, it's obviously there's this massive polarizing reaction. A bunch of people hate it and wish it didn't exist, and a bunch of people just kind of absolutely love it and jump on the bandwagon and are doing really well out of it. I think at the end of the day, your emotion, it's like bug bounty. Like your emotional reaction to it shouldn't be relevant. Take the professional attitude and just go, well, how can I use this to make my life easier? And if it makes your life easier, use it. And if the AI is not powerful enough yet, don't bother. But you might find with the same concept 1 year later, the models have improved, and now that concept works.
I think maybe the people doesn't understand very well what is doing the extension of PortSwigger, okay? Because one of the things comes into my mind, James, like many people believe, okay, how it's working. I imagine someone never used this AI before in the Burp Suite and say, okay, what I need to do? Like I need to put my key from OpenAI, or do you have your own training model, or when it's only in the paid way, how it's working?
It's super simple. So AI stuff uses credits, and at the moment, basically everyone with a pro license gets a large allowance of credits for free. And then, so whenever you invoke something, whenever you activate an AI feature, that goes through our server, and then that's backed by various different AI providers and models. And we've got deals with those models which have various benefits, such as they don't store any data, and they definitely don't use it for training. And also they've got reduced safeguards. So if you try and use AI for hacking stuff with like a public model, often it will just refuse to do it unless you spend ages arguing with it first. Whereas we have reduced safeguards because the AI providers have a deal with us at PortSwigger that understand that this is a valid security tool. So it just works out of the box. Basically, if you're a pen tester, we've made a detailed document explaining the security model, and I recommend reading that before you use it, because if you've got like a contract with your client that basically says you can't use it, then you definitely want to make sure that you're complying with that. And that's an area where we're working on things like getting more certifications for it and providing more guarantees and so on to make sure that everyone is able to use it.
But something come to my mind, and okay, if we are going to the regulatory way, we need to understand different countries, different regulations. And if you are a pen tester, maybe you are working for one company from, we can say Iran, and then you are working for some company for United States, different country, different regulations. Like, I don't have the chance to use my own AI, or like maybe I have my own AI server, and I had the possibility to use my own one, or it's only the possibility to use a Burp Suite one.
So the built-in, the features built into Burp Suite, like the core AI features, only work via our server. Like, that's the architecture. A lot of the work is done server side, and extensions can use that system, but they can also let you use a local model or such, like, if you prefer. But we basically experimented with both approaches and had a lot more success with using the hosted third-party models with the agreements. So that's why we are pursuing that direction more aggressively at the moment.
Because one of the things, I am working today often is in the regulation of AI inside the company, because everything have a new AI, and everything coming with a new AI for the project, and everything coming with one of the concerns of the company is like, what's gonna happen with my data, what's gonna happen with my bugs, what happen if someone hacked your company and get my information, or maybe we found something in some company and someone take the profit before us, right? And I understand it's a concern for the companies, and I know PortSwigger is a big company when they take care about that. But I can understand the concern of the companies, right? That's why I mentioned you the question. And another thing, like, you are working with your own model, or I don't know. You can explain that, because maybe like something for the company, but you are using a different model, a different model, and you are training this model, for example, Olama or Mixtral or something like that, or it's a mixture of different models?
No, so we're using third-party models with like OpenAI, for example, and we have agreements with them. And like, there's some customization that's done on their side, but we're not training our own model. We had an experiment with that, but again, we basically our focus is shipping features that actually work, and then we're able to ship. And our experience was third-party off-the-shelf models with a few tweaks, the best thing for this right now.
Because sometimes happens when you send some payload to ChatGPT or this kind of thing, like, I don't have the possibility to do that because this is not legal from my side
so
of my perspective.
they've changed that for us, right? We had that issue, and we said, look, this is being a pain for us, and they basically switched it off. So it doesn't refuse to do things in a security context that we ask it to.
That's
So that's like a big benefit that our users get from using this system versus plugging in their own system or such like.
because many people believe, okay, I prefer to use my own AI because it's more secure. But from a perspective, okay, it's more secure because if it is in your infrastructure, and you never have the exposition of this But the good thing from the law perspective, for the law perspective, if you use OpenAI, do you know you are compliant with most of the things because you have a big team of lawyers, and that kind of stuff is very complicated, right? Then it's complicated today with the 100 with AI, because same you mentioned, like it's moving forward very, very fast, and it's happening things you need to think like 2 years ago. Do you believe that was possible in some point? Like you use AI inside the PortSwigger or PortSwigger, like no one realized like that can be real, or only you can see like ball that new is for create software of coding application. That's crazy. And the things we are seeing today with different LLMs like cloud and this kind of things, like that blow your mind. At least from my perspective, is incredible. That's why I mentioned you. What do you believe will be the future? And the thing is, like, do you believe in the future we will have the possibility to work as a pen testers or something like that, or only will be AIs working against another AIs? Because that's something I was talking with my friend like a few days ago. He said, in the future, I believe, Albert, in 2028, we will see in the top 10 in HackerOne only AIs. What do you believe about that? Didn't wait. It's not too far. It's like in 3 years.
I don't personally believe that. Yeah, no, I mean, for sure, like exposing the top 10 for VPs in the US or something like that right now, which is, pretty impressive. I know there are humans in the loop in that testing, and VPs are, at least in my experience, disgustingly easy targets because no one bothers looking at them because you don't get paid. So why would you? Yeah, but more broadly, I think that you're always going to have humans in the loop somewhere, but definitely AI is clearly making a large difference. It's letting you do your job faster and more thoroughly. And one thing that I'd be interested to see what happens here is, this thing, I think pen test companies don't really talk about this stuff that much, but it's like when you do a pen test on a target, you never find every vulnerability in that target, right? That doesn't happen. You find the easiest to find vulnerabilities, like up to a certain point, and depending on how long you have to test that target, you find more vulnerabilities. And if they double the length of time you had on that target, you would find more vulnerabilities. So there's this kind of trade-off with like, okay, like you need to pay the pen test that long enough to find all the vulnerabilities that an attacker would find before the attacker got bored and moved on, right? So if the pen tester can now find vulnerabilities 4 times as fast because of AI, well, that's nice, but the attacker can find the vulnerabilities 4 times as fast because of AI as well. So the end result is like the equation is balanced, and you need the same number of pen testers from that perspective. I definitely, that's the hypothesis. I definitely think one more so notice of I think you're going to have humans in the loop
At least
at some point. There's always going to be humans in the loop. It's just something that may drift downwards over time. I wonder if stuff like the entry level stuff may get harder and harder, which would be a shame and will cause issues further down the line now. Yeah,
that's something
but it's
we are
like, but yeah,
that's something we are seeing today, right? For people as junior, it's very hard to find a new job, right? That's at least here something happens. This is something happens here in Spain, and my friends from USA explaining me the same. Like if you are a junior, it's very hard to find a job.
yeah. I mean, I think that there's a tech recession going on at the same time, so I think that's a big impact as well. But yeah, you can't attribute these things perfectly.
And something you say, like, this is interesting, because we are seeing always the perspective from the pen testers and the what we can say white hat hacking or something like that. But what's gonna happen with the criminals? If this oh, when we are going to do back bounty, is companies have enough resources, knowledge, and it's mature inside of the cybersecurity side. But what happened with all these companies, small, medium companies with no pen testers, no time for do back bounties? Like, that will be crazy, at least from my perspective, because at the same time we are moving fast in the white side, we can say. In the black hacking is going 3 times faster because have more money, have more things over the table. And that's why I believe, like, not many people realize, okay, maybe from the perspective of for pen testing, like maybe AI can take some jobs, but from the perspective of securing environment of secure of your data, for us will be better, right? At least from my perspective. I don't know. What do you think about?
Yeah, it definitely requires investment. I mean, one thing is, one thing I can see happening is, like, at the moment, yeah, you've got companies that basically can't afford or basically can't afford a pen test, which is a terrible situation. And it's like, maybe in a couple of years' time, they can pay $100 for a week-long AI pen test, right? And that's a really good outcome, kind of making security testing more available to people. Yeah, that's a really good situation. I think it's still just shockingly easy to hack things at the moment. I think you kind of get what's the word? You get used to it, and it doesn't really stand out after years in the industry. You're like, oh, of course, I could just access like 10 million people's addresses. Like, that's just how it is. But when you look at it, like, it shouldn't be like that. And anything that fixes that is a good thing.
That's something I try to explain to the companies, but the companies don't really understand that. But it's our job to stay there. Then we are talking almost 1 hour. Then James, thank you very much for your time, because I know you are a busy
Thank you.
person at the moment, busier than before. Thank you very much for share that time with us, and my passion. And I hope we can get another meeting together and continue this conversation. And thank you very much, man.
Thanks very much. Bye.